Hello there, and welcome back to the Scaling Deep podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Princik. I'm a membership expert and an online business strategist. And today, I really just want to talk about commitment. I want to talk about how you feel and how committed you feel to creating the business you want. And if you are listening and interested in memberships, then there's a pretty good chance you want to make a good impact, deliver amazing value to your clients and your members, and benefit from that level of service by earning predictable, consistent, repeatable income month after month, which is not a terrible thing. It's definitely an amazing thing. And it also takes time to build up to that. And so why do some people seem to get there and others don't? And really what this comes down to has a lot to do with commitment, some business knowledge, obviously. But let's just say you're beyond that and you've been in business for a few years at least, or had a career that has given you tons of skills and you know some things. And let's say that you also are pretty committed, but let's also say that your risk factor isn't super high and you don't necessarily want the dream so badly that you're willing to put all of it on the line. So does that mean that developing a scalable model such as a membership isn't a good move for you? Does it mean that you should just stick with doing something easier, like done for you work, or that requires your time, a lot more of your time, but it's consistent and people really rely on you to do this thing that they can't or don't want to do? People who've already really proven their value proposition, who have scale, who knows whether it was the right time or the right place, but they've gotten themselves there and you're not there, and developing that audience, developing that traction is difficult, and you're quite comfortable in a place of the clients who you have, knowing that you're not rocking the boat by dramatically raising your prices or dramatically changing the way that you offer services to people, because that is a pretty safe place to be, and it's predictable. But a true entrepreneur, one that wants a lot and is willing to go pretty far to reach that dream. So I've been listening to a book for a book club that I'm in called Your Next 5 Moves. And I'm still on the fence of whether I highly recommend it or not. There's definitely good value to it, although there is a lot of talk about performance and cultivating a culture and employees who help you grow the company, which if you're not growing a big scaled company based on your employees bringing in the value, in this case, he has a financial insurance company, so his employees are sales people who are bringing in a lot of the clients. And so that is potentially why he emphasizes so much of that, like he puts so much emphasis, and that is potentially why he puts so much emphasis on his employees as being the greatest asset. But if you're selling a one-to-many model that isn't based on that agency style, other people working for you to do the work, and that's how you profit, you're an expert in something, you know how to do something really well, you teach people, you want to bring people with the same things that they love together, you want to teach people how to do things, you want to train them, you want to mentor them, then your emphasis needs to be on your ability to think beyond what is just next and how to think even further from that. Now, one of the things that I really learned in this book, I shouldn't say learned, but maybe I did actually learn it, because maybe I was having a bit of a blind spot on how far in the future to think. Because I know in a startup, I've always felt that if you can't predict what's going to happen, it's really hard to make a long-term plan. However, we can also fall short by just looking at the next big accomplishment. And then the problem with that is when we achieve it. Like, so say we created a summit or a challenge, and it was a lot of work to do this thing. We launched it, we finished it, we did a great job, and then we didn't think what was beyond that. Then we get ourselves caught in a place where we're like, oh my God, I didn't plan what was next. And I now have to start whatever is next from scratch, or being almost caught off guard by even knowing what to think about. And that while we're saving our energy by not thinking about all the things that we're not working on, we're also sometimes reaching our plan. So say you have 3 steps in your plan, and then you reach that plan, that goal, and you haven't got the next couple steps thought of. Now, after that, you're going to find yourself in a place where you are like a deer in headlights, where you're just like, I don't even know what's next, and I'm too burnt out to think about it. And I'm not feeling creative, and I'm not feeling like I know how to get started. Whereas what I learned about in this book was when he emphasizes your next 5 moves, always knowing what those are, it means that you're on a rolling timeline. So instead of having like project, here are the 10 steps in the project, and when you get down to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then you start the new project, you will always have 5 steps in the future being thought about so that you can avoid setbacks and crises, like things that you're counting on. Like, so say you need visibility and you're in an event and the event gets canceled, or you thought that you would have an event that you could do, and then you have to put it off by a couple months. Have you thought through what the other things are that come after that, so that you can get around that initial setback a lot easier? And so this longer term, well, I would say longer term, but still medium term thinking will do us better than short term thinking, where we're just like, oh, this is so intense. And then bam, it's over. And oh, like I'm stuck, I'm behind. Everything's taken longer than I think, or more out of me, or more effort, which is often the case. Then you will not be as stalled or as paused or as emotional about it, because you kind of knew what was happening in the future, and then you were prepared for it. So you're not riding those roller coasters as much from like feast or famine, or for like full on energy project to like dramatic nothing. And we want to level that out by thinking a little bit more long term and being a little bit more committed to the outcome, rather than being excited about the vision and fantasizing the best outcome, and then having that take all our emotional capacity out of being able to then objectively consider what we're going to be doing for the medium term, so that we never get too restful on something that worked well and too burnt out from that, whether it's good or bad, and not ready to do the next couple of things. So that is commitment, and that is what true entrepreneurship is about. That's how we scale. And if you want a scalable business like a membership, you've got to be constantly working towards its growth and stability, especially in the beginning. And even if you started it off and you got an initial set of members and they're happy and they're in there, but you're struggling to grow it, and you know the profitability still needs to be richer because you put a lot of effort into this, and you don't want it to dwindle. You want to enrich in that. You want to make that more robust. So you've got to continue that growth to a point. It doesn't have to go on forever. It does need momentum at the beginning. It does need to keep growing for a while for you to earn back that profit from what you put into it in the lean times, or in the preparation and plans before you even started earning from it. So that does need to happen, and we can't burn ourselves out. So we need to find our support systems, we need to find our own communities, and we also need to keep our creativity and inspiration not at a dramatic high, but at a good level, so that we can keep the balance from going. Because not all of us want to work all the time. Not all of us want to give up all the other things. So we've got to maintain that levelness and that objectivity so that we keep taking those next steps. Most of us are sitting on something amazing that would be so helpful if only more people knew about it. I mean, I've got members inside the Profitable Membership Club right now who are so happy and they're so thrilled to have found me. They feel like their value is there. They show up to things. They're like grateful for what they're learning. They feel like the value is amazing. And yet, had I not had the clarity and sound mind to figure out how to connect to them, how to get out in front of people, how to get seen and get known, and also to create a sales experience that made it feel like the right next step for them, then they would not be in there. And that has nothing to do with how great the program is. It has to do with more of how am I able to keep continuing on the journey of sharing the next thing, doing the next thing, and continuing on that path until it gets to get figured out, or until the momentum starts to get created, or until people start to remember me, even if they're not on my list or in my group at the moment. When they come around to it, they'll think, oh, Lisa's that membership person who does has great value and great content, and I've heard good things. So that's what we need to remember and to figure out, is how to keep that momentum going, how to stay objective, how to think a little bit further into the future so that we can come up with a 5-step plan for everything we're working on at all times. So when you check that next step off, you take that one next move, you adding the next one on to the end of that, so that we're constantly thinking further ahead than where we are right now. And we're not going to be blindsided by setbacks. We're going to have thought through things further enough that we aren't stopped in our tracks and don't know what to do next. Because it's not about getting around and avoiding setbacks, because we're all going to do that. We're all going to, even the most successful business owners are still experiencing setbacks regularly. Like, what if they counted on something and they lost a major affiliate, or they relied on a huge ad spend and that got so high it wasn't worth it anymore? That's going to happen to people, and it does happen to people all the time. But the reason why they're successful is because they're maintaining an objective level of analysis and planning so that they can course correct or adjust, maybe not to save everything, but to get around it and keep moving on. And the more you do that, the more you're getting known, the more you're building relationships, the more you're being thought of, the more you're actually creating assets, so that momentum is still building. And all you want to make sure is that you're on that path long enough, so that you're doing enough that you don't just become so in the back burner that no one sees you, no one hears from you, you're not doing anything. Okay, so it's about continuous effort, not massive, just continuous. So that's the thought I want to leave with you today. It's a little bit more mindset and commitment oriented. So just want you to think through how committed you are. I mean, memberships are a longer game. They are highly profitable and highly lucrative, and they do pay off, but they may not start that way. And so the only difference between whether or not you can be successful or not has a lot to do with how long you are committed to making sure that you get to the point where you get to realize that. All right, so those are my thoughts for you today. I'm going to be talking so much more about this inside my membership sales funnel training, which I am currently working on, and it'll be in my shop soon, as well as the sales psychology and tactic training for converting prospects into happy members that's coming up real soon. So to stay on top of that, all you need to do is get on my list. Best place to do that is to get into my free training, scalingdeep.com/freebie. Go check it out. It'll totally shift your thinking on memberships. Thanks for being here, and I'll talk to you soon.